swords.
Take this time to consider your past deeds.
Stop asking questions. You had your chance. Let the games begin.
Hello and welcome, everyone, to Velen's Chosen Podcast. We are here to buff your game. Are you mocking me? Today joining me, we have Andrew Brown. What's up, Andrew?
What up, Rob?
Dude, it's so good to have you back.
Dude, I'm feeling like I got some fresh legs or something like that, you know?
Fresh legs. Yeah, straight off the bench, Andrew Brown.
There we go.
The wild pyromancer.
It was a bummer to be away, but it was really fun to listen. And man, you guys did a great job with James from Esports Hero. That was a great interview.
James is a great guy. I think he wants to come back on. We may have to have him back on eventually again too. So sadly, right now Eve has a conflict with her carpooling agency, or however you want to do that. Just taking her kids to school.
She has a family or something.
Yeah, she has a life.
Yeah.
So anyways, we're going to kind of just start the show, and eventually we'll splice her into the episode for your viewing experience.
Mm-hmm.
And but for now, what do we want to talk today about, Andrew? I'm going to pass the torch here.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Priest much, and Dragon Priest is something I've been playing a little bit of, so we're gonna get that on and get that going. The big thing, like from a budget perspective, is I want to say Dragon Priest can work. I think on the outside looking in, it seems like it's a lot of legendaries, a lot of really high cost minions, but there are definitely some easy ways that you can work around it to get a really solid list and get a really solid deck out of it.
Oh yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I kind of have been notorious to hate on this deck a little bit after I made it, and
why is that?
I think it was because it got me to a certain breaking point, like around rank 7, and I just couldn't do anything else with it.
I got
so, and I think that was largely due to the patron. Like, I was just running into so many of them with the deck, and then I was losing a lot of the attrition battles with Warrior. And those are the games where I wasn't quite sure how to work the deck. Because I think this deck is favored in the Control Warrior matchup, isn't it?
I would think so. I guess it doesn't matter anymore, but
well, it doesn't matter anymore with the Patron Warrior, but like if you're running with this deck on Control.
Oh, with Control Warrior?
Yeah.
I would think Control Warrior would actually win that one, but
okay,
it's probably a close, if not,
Yeah. Because I think you just draw too many cards, so then when you finally hit the Fatigue War and you get to your late game, you have no threats, and they can just drop card after card after card, and they can just outlast you, plus they have just cards that just blast you for 10.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, the time that Dragon Priest really works well is when you get exactly the right hand. It's really dependent.
Good openers are crazy.
Yeah, it's really dependent on getting those heavy drops every single turn, because if you think about it, you play Twilight Whelp on turn 1, that's a 2/3 body with no downside. Turn 2, you play the Worm Rest Agent. That's a 2/4 body with taunt. Really, really strong. Turn 3, you got Blackwing Technician. That's a 3/5 on turn 3. And you just, you keep going like that. Those are really hefty minions, and you can trade very easily with anything. Even a Face Hunter who's trying to get past you, it really doesn't have much of a shot if you keep being consistent with those big drops.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like this deck can just shut down stuff, and the reason it really has the power, if you're really wondering on like the strategy side, like why is this deck good? So if you don't understand why the deck is powerful, you can't really understand if the deck is good. So the reason the deck is powerful is because individual pieces of the puzzle are really weak unless they get the buff that they are given based off of a enablement, right? So the 2/3 is enabled by getting a dragon in hand, and a 3/6 taunt is enabled by having a dragon in hand. Otherwise, it's a 2/1 or a 2/6 for 4 is really weak.
Yeah.
So they can make cards way more powerful by giving them kind of a gatekeeper to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also actually the reason why the deck is inconsistent, though, because if you don't have those enablers in your hand, if you don't have the right draw, then you could be completely, up the up the street. What's the up a stream without a paddle? Something like that. I don't know what the phrase is, but you're not in a good place. That's what I'm trying to say.
You're not in a good place at all. Oh
Yeah.
man, that's good. Yeah. So so we got to kind of rein this into our target audience here. Like, so if I'm running this deck and I don't have Chill Maw, for instance,
Yeah.
or I want to put Confessor Paneltress in there, like, why isn't my deck working?
If you
So
don't
I
have
think-
those,
I think maybe if you don't have those cards, or what if I don't have these cards? Is there any way to kind of like flex a couple of the spots in this deck?
yeah, I mean the only thing that I said in there, if you're gonna invest in anything, you need those Twilight Guardians. That's an epic rarity, 4 cost. It's a 2/6, but if you're holding a dragon, it's a 3/6 with taunt, and that's a really key tempo card for this deck. So that's the one you want to invest in. 2 copies of it. But other than that, I mean, you can replace pretty much any of the legendaries with stuff that's in Blackrock Mountain. So you've got Chromagus, you've got Nefarian, and those 2 are both good cards on their own. I mean, typically you're going
to...
yeah, and Ren Blackhand, yeah. Typically you're going to see people running Ysera instead of Nefarian, which it's definitely the better card, and of course, Ren Blackhand is very temperamental, so he can be a huge swing card in the right time, but he can be completely dead in others. And I don't even think Chill Maw, I haven't seen him running too much, especially after the patron nerf. He's still good.
He's still good. Yeah.
And still beautiful. But,
Yeah, he's definitely one of the coolest cards.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
But other than that, you're running Twilight Whelp, you're running Dragonkin Sorcerers, Blackwing Corruptors. I mean, all stuff that you get from Blackrock Mountain. So as long as you've invested the money or coins in that, you've got most of what you need.
Exactly. I think you're exactly right. Like, we need to really punch in through this mold of saying that there are some cards, archetypes that you want to play, and then you basically have to understand that in order to play this deck, you can play it. There's some sort of baseline card requirement you have to meet before you can make the deck successful, and then you have a range,
right?
From that point forward to having an infinite card collection versus the limited card collection. In that range, you're going to have more of a power level. Now, the other side of the coin is not just a power level range, I think, but if you flip the coin over, you're going to find that not only is it power level range, but it's actually going to be a surprise factor. So if you're running in at people rank 5 and you're playing Chromagus and Ren Blackhand, and these guys are just like expecting a Ysera to drop and they're saving cards for that, and they have to burn it on their Blackhand, and then maybe you actually do have a Ysera in your deck and you drop it, and they're just like, wait, what is this guy's win condition?
Yeah.
So the art of surprise in Warfare actually translates pretty well to card games.
And I would even say that there are 2 variants of Dragon Priest. You got one that just runs a bunch of dragons, lots of beefy stuff, and then there's the combo dragon deck that's been going around that relies on Inner Fire and Divine Spirit to just create a 1-turn kill effect. And obviously that's really effective with someone like Ysera, someone like the Twilight Guardian. But even if you are trying to construct a budget deck, I would recommend go with the combo. And you've got Inner Fire and Divine Spirit, which are both commons. And then even something like Wormrest Agent, something like a Twilight Drake or Azure Drake, even the Dark Cultist in that spot can get beefed up really fast.
Death Lords are also running.
And
that
Death
deck.
Lords, yes, absolutely.
Those things are disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, Death Lords are in the original OTK deck when they were coming out with it. Like, basically, a Death Lord is a 2/8 taunt death rattle. Your opponent gets a minion on the battlefield. So sometimes the Death Lords can even pull a lot of disruption and stop aggression at the same time with your opponent. For instance, like, and also, like, if you're going second and you have a Death Lord, you can end the game on turn. Is it turn 4?
Well, let's see.
Inner Fire's 1 mana. And Divine Spirit, so that's 3 mana. So it's basically 6 mana. So if you can basically get your opponent, if you can get a Death Lord on the board and it's empty by turn 3, Or you can get a Death Lord coined on turn 2 and they can't deal with it or even damage it. You turn 3 will play Divine Spirit Inner Fire and you'll actually hit them for 16 damage.
And that's always feels very powerful, especially as a priest who's just kind of playing mind games and stuff. To be able to just whack them with a 32 attack minion, that's
it can be done.
Yeah, it absolutely can. Only other thing is you'll see a lot of decks running copies of Light Bomb, which you might not have. Just use Holy Nova. That's fine. And
I would say if you're only running one copy of Holy Nova, you have to be running another alternative to board clearing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're running one Holy Nova, you should either be running another Light Bomb, or you should be running Akanai Circles, or more spells with a Wild Pyromancer, or even just simply a Sylvanas with an extra death. Those are kind of the alternatives you have to think about when you're trying to replace cards. Is what did the card that I'm replacing do, and can I replace that function or not?
Yeah, that's good. And something I want to mention that I'm learning outside of this deck, but definitely with this deck, so this applies no matter what you're playing, is don't give up too easily on a deck. If you play a few games with a Dragon Priest and you just never draw the right thing, after 3 games, you've just had 3 really bad hands. That's too small a sample pool to really judge, like, this deck is terrible and I'm no good at it. I'm just going to play something else. Like, really, you need a good 10, 20 games to really get a feel for it. I would say
the 20 games is kind of the good venue.
Yeah, I personally give up way too easily on decks, and I'll get frustrated so fast. If I lose 2 games in a row, I'm done. And I'm just having.
That's what happened to you with Dragon Priest, wasn't it? Or not Dragon Priest, but Secret Paladin initially.
With Secret Paladin, yeah. And it actually happened with me this morning with a Tempo Mage I was playing. I won 2 games in a row, and I was feeling really good. And then I lost 2 games in a row right after that, and I was done. I was like ready to throw my phone across the room. So it's just, for me, I just get triggered so fast. And I've got to remember, like, this takes time to get to know the deck, and it takes time to really not only feel confident or feel comfortable with it, but to get a good idea for how it can perform even,
Right. It's kind of like getting to know friends. It's like,
Absolutely.
You can't expect to get to know the deck well if you're not making friends first.
Mm-hmm.
Buy them a drink before you take them out to dinner.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so Andrew, is there any other things about this deck archetype that you really want to talk through? Like, I know that you mentioned the 2 styles of like OTK, one turn killing, versus, I guess, the Outlast or the Outvalue version. But don't you think there's like another version of this deck now that's out there?
Another one?
What is it? It's not necessarily another one. I think it kind of is another version that's kind of just, it keeps evolving.
Okay.
And I found it on competitive HS this week. And it basically has, I'm going to drop my substitutions list because I actually made it. I called it the surprise Dargon list.
Ooh, yum.
So it runs double powered shields and clerics as well as whelps. It only runs 1 copy of the Shrinkmeister Cabal combo.
Okay.
And then it runs, the typical 2 agents, 2 guardians, 2 Azure Drakes, 1 Light Bomb, 2 Nova, Chillmaw, and Ysera. Okay. But in place of a few other cards, it also runs a Dragonkin Sorcerer run of. I also put in 2 Corruptors. So this deck only runs 1 Death, and it runs 2 Cultists as well as Velen's Chosens, and then it runs like a Vol'jin, and it actually runs a surprise card. 2 surprise cards for the end game win conditions, which is Justicar and Paletris.
Okay.
So these are not necessarily like your budget cards, but like I am a firm believer that I want to start transitioning the show and instead of like trying to avoid everything that's epic and rare rarity or legend, or I'm sorry, epic and legendary rarity.
I was
cards.
like, no rare, man. That's super budget. Dang.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to avoid those kind of a card requirements entirely, but I would rather like to keep people in the mentality where if they're keeping legendaries because they like them, I want to give them a good tool by which they can fit those cards into a deck if they have them, instead of like just dusting them. So like if you have Paltris or you have Justicar, I think you can really work it into these decks. Justicar basically gives you that 1-up status for outlasting. Like you can't do it to the level that a warrior can just keep armoring over 30.
Right.
But this can keep you in the game when you're getting pummeled by aggression early. This can really fight you back. And another thing that I think a lot of players need to understand about Justicar is if it's played on turn 10, it's a lot of power. But you have to play it in the right order. Andrew, do you know the combo with turn 10 Justicars?
Oh, yeah. So you use your hero power.
So why don't you jump into that?
You use your hero power, then you Justicar, you upgrade your hero power, and then you can use it a second time in that same turn. So I've used it in the Inspire Warrior decks that I've tried out, because in that circumstance, you can armor up as much as you want, so it's always effective, especially if you're playing a Fatigue Warrior that's just trying to outlast your opponent. You want to get every last bit of armor that you can. And with Priest, if you're playing it, especially with how aggro the meta is right now, you're probably going to be in a place by turn 10 where you can definitely use as much health as you can, So...
And this works really well if you just want to like heal a minion for 2 and then drop Justicar and heal yourself for 4.
You can do that.
Or you can heal yourself for 6. You can heal Ysera that's maybe already hit the board. Those are the type of the things that you can do with it in Priest. It also can give you a total of 3 Silverhand recruits, 1 totem at random, 1 totem that you want. In Shaman, what other stuff? It gives you the 6 armor for Warrior, for some crazy power plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think Warriors, you don't see Justicar running in many other classes.
It's kind of just these 3 classes that Justicar pops up.
There are some Flood Paladin lists that'll use it, but
I'm using it. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show,
okay.
But I'm actually using it in a mid-range deck that's really powerful.
Okay.
Especially with the threat of having a Quartermaster and Defender of Argus in the deck. It's pretty nasty.
Cool. Yeah.
I have yet to see Justicar in a Shaman deck that wasn't silly. I think I've only seen it once in a Shaman deck.
Or Rogue.
And then
I've never seen Rogue. It in Rogue.
Yeah, it's really bad in Rogue. It's also really bad in what's the other one?
Hunter?
Yeah, Hunter can kind of get you a little bit of reach, but the whole
Druid.
function of
Druid, I bet.
I've actually seen it in Druid. It's pretty powerful in Druid, believe it or not. If you can get a hero inspired Druid with like...
You can't say it's pretty powerful when like literally nobody uses it though. If you've seen it one time, true. There's a reason you've only seen it one time,
Well, it's just the cheese. Like, it's such a cool cheese ball move that you can do. Like, if you can get it off and you have that plus a Savage Combatant, you're dealing...
You want to talk about a cheese ball deck? I need to make my Ogre deck with Mogre's Champion, because I got a golden one from a pack, and so I need to craft a deck that has no chance.
I just made a golden Justicar and a golden Lotheb this week.
Oh, pretty. Okay.
Yeah, they had that big deal on coins, so I spent a lot of...
on Amazon?
So basically, yeah, like they got the 20% off if you buy $50 worth.
If you haven't looked into that, you really should. And we're not getting
it's nuts. For that. Like, if you guys are in the budget revenue area instead of like the free to play, $40, guys, you can get $50 worth of coin if you can do it through Amazon. Like, it's a kind of a complicated process. We're not going to dive into it, but I mean, I have basically Amazon Underground downloaded on my phone, and then you use that to download Hearthstone app instead of using the Google Play Store.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you download it, it'll actually link it to your Amazon account. And then you can buy coins on Amazon. You basically purchase $50 worth of coins for $40. And then, I know it doesn't sound like that's, 10%. It's 10% off instead of 20% off. Sometimes, so it's 45, but right now during Worlds, it's really big news that you can get 20% off. And then they give you, I think, 10 or 20% back of the coins you spent again, so you can spend them again.
Just search for Amazon Hearthstone and you'll find it. I don't have I have an iPhone and a Mac and all that, but you can download emulators and stuff to still get the deal.
Get it done.
So it can apply for
You'll
anyone.
see.
And especially for budget players, you want to get the most out of anything that you're putting in because it's probably not
absolutely.
a ton. So.
Yeah, so just to keep continuing through the Dragon Priest, but kind of jump into a new section. Eventually Eve will get here, so I'm excited for what she's going to bring to the table on this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But substitutions is kind of what we talked about, but I want to go back into Dragon Priest specifically because we're going to talk about a lot of meta decks today and really jump into what are kind of like broad brush cards you want to have in your collection, or even maybe already have in your collection you don't really utilize as well for replacements.
Okay.
So let's say you are running a control priest instead of a dragon priest, and you want to run something similar that's actually still a pretty powerful deck. If you can stop the aggression. So what are cards you stop the aggression with? Well, Zombie Chow is kind of your bread and butter.
Yeah.
You can actually put in Shadow Pains. Usually people only run one, I think. But Shadow Pain can have a lot of potential within priest if you have a Shrinkmeister Pain off of a Ysera. Like, that's demoralizing to
Absolutely.
get wrecked on. This is not necessarily a priest card, but a good bread and butter card to have two of in your collection is Iron Beak Owls.
Mm-hmm.
Those cards are disgusting. Like, early silences can be very effective. Wild Pyromancer. Andrew, I'm going to kind of pass the torch for you. I'm going to put you on the spot for this one, but why is Wild Pyro so good in the meta right now?
Well, because you got a lot of one health minions that are out. I mean, you think about Secret Paladin probably being the most effective right now, Muster for Battle, or taking out Divine Shields of Argent Squires or Shielded Minibots. That's huge. And then against Face Hunter, which probably about 50% of my matches right now are against that.
Really?
That's probably too generous, but obviously it's frustrating when it happens. But I would say that probably a good 60 to 70% of my matches are either Face Hunter, Secret Paladin, or Tempo Mage. Those are probably the three I've seen most of. And for all of I guess Tempo Mage doesn't have many.
Tempo
one
Mage
health.
can be a little iffy.
But Face Hunter, I mean, everything has one health practically. So Wild Pyromancer can clear the board easily with just about anything.
Mm-hmm. And Smite, like, guys, Holy Smite is a card. And you can use it in this deck. It actually works.
I mean, Holy Smite, right? I mean, that's bad. Okay.
Especially if it's a Holy Smite Golden. It's one of the first Goldens you'll get in your priest collection.
That's true.
But Holy Smite works, like, especially if you have a Vol'jin. I mean, turn 6 Vol'jin Smite is a replacement card with a good body on the board. Like, that's hard to beat.
Yeah. I would also say that just all around, if you're trying to combat the aggro-heavy meta, like, Control Warrior is probably a really good one to bank on. I mean, once you get Armor Smith out there, once you get with all the removal options you have with Bash, and I even saw I don't even know how to pronounce him. Zhou? Is that his?
That's Xiao.
Xiao.
I think it's called Xiao. Yeah.
Whatever. SJOW. Him. I saw him running like an aggro. Like a very defensive, heavy Control Warrior, and it had Death Lords, it had Bashes, it had Fiery, it had so much.
That's the Fatigue Warrior, I guess, is what they're counting.
It probably was that. So I mean, that's really good to, if you're just getting pummeled on the ladder, you can either outrace him or you can get completely defensive, and either one is gonna probably help you to fight back.
Then they have those Face Warriors, dude. I lost to one of those on the ladder last night. Have you seen?
Oh, did you? I haven't run into any yet. I think
my word.
I think one Mech Warrior, a Face Mech Warrior, but
it's like non-mech warrior because he didn't draw any mechs, but I was dead by like turn 6.
Was it a Charge Warrior?
Zoo. Yeah, I think it was a Charge Warrior.
Okay.
Because he had like turn 1 Leper Gnome, turn 2 Fiery War Axe. I don't remember what he played turn 3, but I'm pretty sure turn 4 was the Corkrun Elite. And then that's a 4 damage, 3 health charge minion.
Mm-hmm.
And then then he played an Arcanite Reaper. And I was down to 8 by this point. Turn 5, down to 8 health. That's insane.
Wow.
And I was playing my Zoo Warlock list. And I didn't draw any of my taunts early, which is killing me.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I can't even tap because I'm going to get wrecked.
Oh, man.
So then, like, or no, maybe this is my Paladin list. Yeah, that's right. This is my mid-range paladin list, so I didn't draw like anything to like stop the aggression. But anyways, like I killed the Leper Gnome, I killed the Corcoran, etc. And then I was like, I have to use my True Silver to face to heal up to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had the option of playing like 2 big minions or like it was like a muster and like another minion or Lotheb. And I was like, okay, I'll just play the minions and hope he doesn't have what he needs to kill me.
Yeah.
The guy has Heroic Strike to hit me for 9 with a second charge, and then Mortal Strikes me for another 4 for lethal. I was like, if I had played lethal, or if I had played Lotheb, I might have had lethal. What the heck?
I did play I actually have a deck list on Hearthpwn of a mech warrior that I made. Not that it's too original, but I posted a picture on there because the best game I ever had, I went up against a demon warlock and I killed him by turn 4. All he had done was play a Void Caller, and that was it.
My word.
So
you just ignored it.
Yep. I mean that was his turn 3 was a coin Void Caller, and I already was able to kill him. So that's
dang. Yeah, this deck is crazy against people that don't draw Moltons and Sun Furies.
Yeah. But yeah,
because they think they're going up against, some weird new patron shenanigans or control warrior.
Yeah.
So another priest card that I think that a lot of people are undervaluing is actually Thoughtsteal. What do you think about this card, Andrew?
It's a Maz's like favorite card. And when you compare it to Arcane Intellect, you're drawing 2 cards for 3, so it's exactly the same. The only issue is you don't know how they're gonna combine with your deck. So you could get 2 cards, from a Face Hunter. You could get a Kill Command and Abusive Sergeant, and those could be okay, but you're not going to get the kind of synergy that Hunter's going to get with it, obviously. But you could get the Dream Scenario, and I mean, with so many people running cards that give you random cards like Unstable Portal or even Grand Crusader. I saw a Control Warrior list with that, just for the fact that you're getting a card. It's most of the time that's going to be helpful. You can get something really good with it. You're taking a risk, but anytime you get card advantage, that's always good. So I think Thoughtsteal can be really good. It's just a risk. I think that right now, with how aggro focused the meta is, it's hard to justify running something like that doesn't actually proc something. So if you're using that because you played Wild Pyromancer turn 2 and then you go into Thoughtsteal on turn 3, you're getting an extra effect from it, and that's what Tempo Mage is all about. You save your spells for the Mana Worm, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, the Flame Waker, so you get extra value from it.
Yeah.
If you're not getting the extra value, it's kind of hard to justify right now, unless you're going up against in a control matchup, which in that case it's great.
Right. I think what has really happened with Priest Thoughtsteal used to be a staple, but since BlackRock and the induction of the Twilight Guardian, and the Wormrest Agent, it has shifted into being more of a tech card against control.
Sure.
So I think that's what you're really seeing is the power hasn't diminished in the card. It's just the overall power pool of everything else that Priest has in its arsenal has gotten pushed down in that 30 card limit. You kind of just need. That's the problem with 30 card limit is it doesn't really give you a whole lot of wiggle room on a certain playing field with your tech.
It's really a matter of what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to get to Legend in the last day, don't bother with those control matchups. You gotta choose something that's hyper aggressive or Secret Paladin. So, but if you just want to try
that can get you win streaks and fast. So.
Yeah, I found a fun deck list that was a more of a mid-range Paladin, and I just wanted to try it out these last couple days because Legend is just too far outside of my
out of reach.
Reach right now. So, if you're just looking to try out a control priest or something like that, then go for it. Thoughtsteal's a great card.
Yeah, I'm planning on spending my last night on ladder actually playing some Freeze Mage because I need to learn that deck. And it's getting a lot of play in the worlds right now.
Well, it's so effective against all the aggro decks also. I too have been trying to learn it, but it's a rough one. What's been your experience so far with it?
I haven't gotten a chance to play it because I got super distracted with playing that mid-range Paladin because it looks so fun. And I have been, I know a lot of players have been kind of like meh over this, even in Vicious Syndicate, but I've kind of like thrown caution to the wind, and I kind of want to do it anyways, is actually putting a Kodo Rider in there.
Oh, okay.
Because like you're running a lot of value cards that enable or use your Inspire mechanic, like the Murloc Knight and Justicar Trueheart with Quartermaster, and you're filling the board. But like if you're not drawing Justicar and you draw the Kodo Rider, you know, you're getting a 6/10 in essence spread over 2 bodies. So it's kind of like, do you want a 6/10 or do you want infinite 1/1s that you're getting 2/2 basically spread over 2 bodies?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same argument in my opinion, but the reason that they are valuing Justicar even further, like I think Justicar is definitely, if you're considering Justicar versus Kodo, Justicar is a better bet because of it interacts with Quartermaster and synergizes with other cards. But if you want to do 2 6-drop cards and one of them can be a Kodo Rider, I think that would be, there's some merit in teching it in and trying it out. So anyways, before we get into that, Freeze Mage and other stuff, I want to go over a couple more priest cards. So we mentioned Zombie Chow. Amaz is actually running his deck on, is called the Pale Apple.
Oh,
basically
yeah.
it's Dragon Priest or it's a Control Priest using Confessor Paletress that swings games if it gets you the right card.
Yeah.
And also he runs 2 Mad Bombers. What do you think of that?
Well, that's again talking about, you know, in the aggro heavy meta, that little ping might be just enough to take out, you know, the abusive sergeant across from you, or even a mad scientist or something like that. So it's an interesting choice. It's not a guaranteed effect, but it can be super effective. I mean, if you're trying to regain board control after he has, you know, 3 of his Silver Hand recruits on the board, then there's a good chance that out of those 3 procs, you're going to kill at least 1 or 2 of them. If not, you might take out all 3.
Mad Bomber is kind of like it's kind of like an add 1 target, arcane missiles, and then you get a 3/2 body.
Yeah.
And it's for 2 mana.
The only thing is you could hit your face with all 3 of them, which that always stinks when that happens.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It adds a new target that would be less beneficial.
I got you.
And then if you do this on an empty board, this card is amazing if you're going first as priest against any kind of paladin running muster. Because you're basically, okay, so it's a 50-50 shot every time if there's an empty board. If you add 3 more targets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 possible targets on the board. Okay, so you have a 4 in 5, or a 4 in 5 is the same as a 8 out of 10. So you have an 80% chance 3 times to hit a 1/1 minion. That is a very good statistic. And if you kill one, your odds go down to right around 60% if you kill 1/1 on the first one. So it's above a 50 percentile to kill 2 1/1s by playing Mad Bomber into Muster for Battle. So I think that's a very interesting statistic that a lot of players maybe aren't really crunching the numbers like, well, it's RNG, I'll just hit myself 3 times in the face and I'll be sad. Well, there is the very small subsample that will happen and it'll swing the game and you'll lose. But it's kind of funny when it happens, more so than it is like rage inducing. So I think Mad Bomber is a good tech choice for Priest. But again, it's kind of
I think the problem with that deck is that you need those Inspire. Yeah.
Sorry, I think my internet is going out again on you, Andrew.
I got you.
So you can say your comment here. Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. That deck is just really reliant on some good Inspire minions like Paletress. So really, it's a deck to try out if you happen to come across her in a pack or something like that. But it's definitely not consistent enough that you need to go craft her. She's extremely fun, but we, as a community, we haven't figured out how to utilize her best in a deck yet. So
right. Yep, and then we mentioned a couple other cards like the Kodo Rider, not just for Priest or for Paladin, but I think Kodo Rider is a pretty good epic card. If you have one, try to throw it in place of maybe an epic card in some of your lineups that are 8 mana or 7 mana slots. Kel'Thuzad is also a really highly undervalued card, I think, right now. I feel like I'm calling it now, but I feel like Kel'Thuzad is going to have a huge resurgence if somebody finds it to fit in one of the current decks.
I went up against a ramp druid that completely destroyed me because they played KT right at the end, and that's exactly the deck you want to play him in. So
yeah, he kind of gets a bad rap for being a win more card. You know, like if you have board, that's when you play Kel'Thuzad and it's good. But KT can just basically seal the game as a stamp of approval. Like if you're ahead and it's kind of edgy and it's close, you play Kel'Thuzad, you just won the game. Like that is the win condition of being close.
Absolutely.
If you're slightly ahead, you can confirm your victory. And then Nefarian can just swing games if you play him on the right turn too. So I always like to include him in the list. And Emperor Thaurissan, good in a lot of, like if you're playing control, you basically just need to take a long, hard look at your deck list and see if you can fit it in there. Because Emperor's pretty good on pretty much any front in control matchups.
Yeah.
There's even VLPS is saying that he runs like what he calls the greedy control warrior. He actually runs Emperor in there and says it's really good and he doesn't want to cut it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it is good. It is good. All right. Last couple priest cards. Tournament Medic. This actually is ironically a good card to include in the OTK decks for priest.
Oh yeah,
if you really like it.
Another really high health minion that with Inner Fire, Divine Spirit can,
and it synergizes with Holy Champion.
Yep. I was telling Rob before we started recording that I played against a priest last night who was doing some kind of Inspire funkiness, but they got a Tournament Medic and Nexus Champion Sarad out, and when you get 2 Inspire minions out there, all of a sudden your hero power just has bananas value. So he was getting a random spell and healing himself for 2, no matter what else he was healing, and I barely beat him, but it can be super effective if you get that stuff out there.
Yeah, and like the crazy thing about Tournament Medic is you really don't need the Divine Spirit and Inner Fire. Like you can just get an 8 health minion for drop an Inner Fire on it.
He's really hard to take out.
For 8 attack. Like he's crazy. So yeah, just some fun stuff. Another good staple card in pretty much any deck is going to be Loatheb. Like when in doubt, you have 5 drops. There's 2 cards you always consider: Loatheb and Sludge Belcher, right?
Yeah.
Those cards just have so much power. Kind of like if you're having a 4-drop card, the 2 cards you're always considering is Piloted Shredder and a Defender of Argus. Like every single deck you're looking at, can I put a Shredder in here? Does it help me?
Yeah.
And then another card that I think right now has got some pretty insane value is actually a Stampeding Kodo. This saw a lot of play in Control Paladin a couple of months ago. But I think the Kodos could have a pretty big resurgence here. Like, if aggro keeps pushing forward, this card can eliminate anything with 2 health or less.
Which is good.
The sad part is it's a 3/5 for 5. Like, if this card was a 4/5 for 5 with that effect, this card would be so broken I couldn't even understand. Like, this card is insane if it's a 4/5 for 5 with destroyed 2 health. So I think this card's really balanced. And then Silverhand Regent is kind of like another busted card that you can use in place of a Murloc Knight or in addition to a Murloc Knight. It's just not as powerful.
A busted card giving you a 1/1.
No, not busted. I'm just saying like I meant to say that the Murloc card is a busted.
Okay.
But yeah, Silverhand Regent's kind of like another alternative.
Yeah.
All right, so is there any other like decks that you've been seeing on the ladder besides, the ones that we really talked through? I know that I've been playing Zoo a little bit. Have you seen a lot of that?
Okay.
Your experience?
I haven't seen much Zoo. Every now and then I will, but not too much really.
Dude, I tell you what, I had a couple huge swing games where I had a Bane of Doom drop an Illidan, and it was unreal how much I could get value off of that.
That's
pretty
pretty cool.
Sick. And then I was like, man, maybe I should put Illidan in this deck. Illidan for 5 mana is really good, but Illidan for 7 mana is kind of hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you get the picture. And then like the other thing that I got was I think I Bane of Doomed a Mal'Ganis, and I was like, oh my word. And like as soon as that happened, the guy just conceded. It was like in the middle of the game, and I was like, all right. And this is all last night, so I went like 8-1 or 9-2 with this deck. It was like, what?
Man.
And the crazy thing was, the very first game that I wanted to try playing it, I had a lot of like connectivity issues to try to get into the game, and then I finally got into the game, and I played my first card, or I didn't even get a chance to play my first card. I had pulled my cards in from the mulligan, and I didn't see him mulligan any cards. And I was like, huh. And there was like this weird delay, and it was his turn first, and he just concedes. And I was like, did I just get my first legend card back view in the mulligan concede?
Oh my gosh.
I was like, this is rank 12. Play the game. So I don't know if it was that or connection issues, but I like to think of it as my first concede against for having a legend card back in rank 12.
Sure.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Man, that's crazy.
So yeah, like in Zoo and in like mid-range Hunter, what do you think are some like good cards from TGT or even just Naxxramas cards in general that are just good staples for those kind of decks? I got some up right now, but I'm interested to see if you can come up with them.
Zoo and mid-range Hunter. I mean, not much has changed for Zoo with TGT.
Right.
I'm trying to think. For mid-range Hunter, you've seen some Ram, or what are those called? Ram
Wranglers.
Ram Wranglers, yeah. And that works fine. You know, it's fun. It's cute. It works sometimes. Sometimes it gives you a Gazrilla. Sometimes it gives you a Stone Tusk Boar. I think Bear Trap's the biggest thing that's helped both Face Hunter and mid-range Hunter, because I'm getting to the point where I'm anticipating it more, and I'm sure a lot of other people are too. But it's still kind of a surprise even when it comes up, you know. So I would say Bear Trap's probably the biggest effector, but
yeah. And like some of the cards kind of go without saying, but like Haunted Creeper, Ironbeak Owl, those are such huge beast cards for Hunter.
Oh yeah.
And like you just gotta keep them in there. There's so much value. And another card that it's in more of the hybrid or Face Hunter lists that's sort of showing up. It's basically like a durable charge minion is the Argent Horse Rider. And interestingly enough, I have not seen a lot of them in the World Championship as I've been watching kind of the pros play. They've actually still been putting in the Wolf Riders.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of encouraging for newer players to see more basic cards hitting the Hunter list. And then another is like an epic card that you always want to consider as a tech card is BGH, depending on what you're seeing. I think BGH is almost always included in tournament scene, but if you're on the ladder, you can actually get away with not having this card a lot of times, I think.
Yeah, you definitely can. I think it's, especially with how aggro stuff is right now, there's not a ton that you're facing up against that's whatchamacallit. That's going to be 7 attack or more, you know?
Right. And Kezan Mystic, super swingy card if you can get it.
Dude, I have run into some of those lately. That card's making a comeback. It's not
Freeze Mage showing up this much.
Yep.
There's tournaments where we had a Tuesday Night Hype winner this last week that I was listening to the guys chat about. He won because he played Control Warrior with double Mystic.
Wow.
And just completely wrecked him. Freeze Mage.
Got him, huh?
It was insane.
Wow.
Like he stole his ice armor and he stole an ice block, and the guy just like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. That's rough.
But man, he really hated the Freeze Mage because I guess those have been popping up so much that if you super tech against them in a tournament setting, you're just gonna get you're gonna punish them really hard.
No question.
Other cards that are kind of like flying under the radar commons that I think people should consider is Harvest Golem and Ogre Brute. I think both of those are really good cards. I actually had a friend of mine contact me about a tournament that he was going to go into at a fireside gathering, and he didn't have Argent Watchers or Ancient Watchers for his handlock. And I was like, well, just put in Ogre Brutes. They actually have more versatility, kind of a surprise card, so it may not be as bad of a choice as you may think. And I think he won the fireside gathering because of that card tech.
Oh, wow.
Because he was able to silence them and have a 4/4 instead of a 5/4 and be able to target them. And he didn't have to silence them even then. And then what's even crazier is when you taunt them, you can still get a 4 damage play. with your Sunfury Protector, or you can get a 5 damage play if you get a Defender of Argus down on an Ogre Brute.
Mm-hmm.
So they push a little bit more of a threat, but you kind of have to wait one more mana or one more turn to play them.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a drawback.
I think those different, because both of those are really key cards in Arena, and that if a card's good in Arena, that just means it's a good card, and so throwing them in, especially when the meta is so aggro,
yeah,
you're going to have some more surprises that you can throw at them in those, initial moments,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's always a good idea to try and run that.
Yeah, and the last card I have here on my substitutions list is MC Tech.
Okay.
I think MC Tech is going to be able to be seeing a lot more resurgence in our current meta state, with a lot of decks just basically popping up that have, hey, I'm going to play 4 minions, deal with it.
Sure.
Like, people are not playing around it. And granted, a lot of times the MC Tech is kind of a bad card to tech, because all the cards that people are flooding with now are low value.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can flood and, even 2 of the 4 minions, or especially if it's 3 or 4 of the minions, are decent value and you play an MC Tech, it can swing the game.
Sure, yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of our meta discussion substitutions for the day. Andrew, do you have any more conclusions that you want to draw from kind of what we talked through today?
No, I mean, I think that's pretty good. If you're getting on the ladder right now, get yourself some Secret Paladin or something that's going to wreck shop, Fast Druid or something like that,
Yeah, and consider swapping a couple cards out, even if it's just to see what the surprise factor is going to be.
Yeah.
I think I've done that a few times, even when I'm not caring about my ladder experience. Like this month, I was just trying to rush down to rank 10. I was like, well, Zeus seems to be interesting. I don't see a lot of people playing it, so if I run this, people are just going to get stomped. And it's exactly what happened. I just wrecked Druid after Druid after Druid, and it was insane.
Mm-hmm.
So, cool. Eve decided that it would actually be better for her not to come in on the episode because she came in a little bit late. So
we got to have bro
she'll
time.
join us next week. What's that?
We got to have bro time instead.
Yeah, we got Velen's Brosen.
Nice. I like that.
Oh man, I think I'm gonna have to name the episode Velen's Brosen.
All right.
Even though the punchline's at the end of the episode.
I like it.
Okay, so Andrew, where can people find you, my friend?
You can find me on Twitter at AndrewIsLiving, or check out some arena tips I've got on YouTube under the username BinacaFreak.
Awesome. And you can find me on Facebook. You can find my design portfolio as well as my photographs there, which is mainly what it's used for, at NotRobMedia. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at NotRob. You can find me on Rocket League in Steam at SIRTWIK or Sir Twick. You can find me in BattleNet at Twick #sign 1198. And we can play a couple matches in practice if you'd like. We would like to thank the people at iTunes for putting us in their new and noteworthy group. We got a pretty cool conference call coming up that I'll be taking next week. I'm pretty excited to talk with their associates, and we're in the new and noteworthy section, kind of towards the bottom, but we're there.
And thank you guys for that. That's not anything that we're doing. That's all you. So thanks for listening. Thanks for leaving reviews. It really, really makes a difference.
Yeah. Speaking of reviews, we'd especially like to thank Watchman HS from Twitter as well for leaving us a 5-star review saying, Velen's chosen good for players ranked 25 to legend. I've been a listener since episode 1, and I'm happy to say this podcast is on my weekly rotation. The interaction between the hosts is pleasant, and their knowledge base and experience provide useful and entertaining insights. Players from newbie to veteran will enjoy this podcast and find something that will benefit them and enhance their gameplay. Keep up the great work, guys. Thank you so much, Watchman. I've been interacting with him on Twitter. He provided our Twitter question last episode and asked us to talk about how to counter Dragon Priest. So we talked about Dragon Priest instead. So maybe you can do that.
Did we say how to counter it?
I don't think we really did. I told
the
him
big
that's
thing
easy. Just play mid-range Hunter.
There you go. The big thing I would say is that you kind of rely on their not drawing the right cards, and they'll do that often, so don't worry too much about it. I'd say just keep playing what you like.
It's kind of one of those things where you sometimes it could be your bad matchup depending on what game you're playing, but I think it's okay. Like, sometimes I feel like Dragon Priest is almost like a toss-up if you're playing pretty much anything.
Yeah.
So Dragon Priest is okay. You can almost always win if you're playing Seeker Paladin. I know that's true.
Yeah.
So cool. We're going to let you know where you can find Eve real quick. I got to pull open her info. You can find her on Twitter at Finavar, which is FHINNOVARR. And you can find her on Twitch at Evemartyn, spelled with EVEMARTYN. You can also find our podcast on Facebook. You can find it on Twitter. You can find us on those places at Velen's Podcast on Twitter and Velen's Chosen Podcast on Facebook. Andrew, why don't you let people know what they can do with our email and Patreon?
Yeah, email us at valenschosenpodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions or need to blow off some steam because the ladder's just not treating you well.
We'll talk with you.
Yeah, we have heard from a lot of people that it's been encouraging to hear just what we're experiencing and how we're learning to deal with it, how to get better. So if that's you, man, send us an email. And we'd love to talk about it on the show and, keep growing the family. So do that. Also, you can search for us on Patreon, and we're raising funds so that we can make the show better. So if it's valuable to you, it's an option.
Yep, and don't forget, after our Esports Hero episode featuring James Hildredge, he gave us an Esports Hero code for 5,000 coins or a $5 value. You can punch in the code Velen's Chosen 15 to... No case sensitive, no spaces. Just punch that in there and you can get 5,000 coins.
Yeah.
So I think that's it from me and from Andrew. This is Velen's Brosen. And not all who wander on the ladder are lost. Thanks for joining us.
See you guys.
Take this time to consider your past deeds.
Stop asking questions. You had your chance. Did I miss it?